How are you feeling about Jose Altuve? Does it feel like this is just a rough patch, or are we seeing the decline trademark of Astros legend? After, I mean, he did not have a good game yesterday. Let's put it very simply. And a 4-3 loss for the Astros that saw them dip right below 500 once again, 17-18, and he was a big part of why this ends up as a 4-3 loss as opposed to maybe a potential victory with a couple of instances offensively that were problematic. But it's not just this game. It's where he's been tracking generally as a player. But in this one, there was a couple of things that absolutely were, mind-boggling and possibly blood-boiling if you were watching it.
Unsurprising. A little bit,
to some degree, a little unsurprising. One of them really kind of
on the base paths.
But man, how are you feeling about Jose? Because Jose was a huge topic of conversation when it came to the offseason. Obviously, you had a lot of moving and shaking, and one of the things that was done was him moving to the outfield defensively, finding that particular change in order to keep his bat in the lineup. But also try and get some better defense because you knew that there was a level of decline that's inherent with a player of his age. But we're starting to see one of the things that we thought was a given in the bat really trend downwards. It typically, the defense and the bat, or like defense, was when it was going down, you could lean on some other things to make it up, and those things feel like they're going away somewhere.
Yeah, look, we got to talk about this, because we are eventually, and now's as good a time as any, because this is not just because he turned 35 yesterday, which is one of those numbers.
Yeah, that was also one of those weird things. Hey, it's your birthday. What are you doing?
That's right. Why are you playing like that? 35 is one of those numbers where in any sport, baseball, tend to be maybe a little longer. At 35, you're like, oh, people, there's that term, the wrong side of 35, And so I tried to look at this not as, oh, he's 35, well, he must be slowing down. So I did a little digging on here. The most obvious numbers, well, I often say, watch what they do, not what they say.
Certainly.
What they say is
he's the best shape of my life.
Best shape of my life. He's still Jose Altuve, et cetera, et cetera. What they did was they moved him. What they did was they moved him from second base to the outfield. That wasn't an accident. He moved. They moved him, however you want to put it. And then you look at the numbers since April 18th, because he started out terrific. I mean, we were looking at Jose Altuve as the only guy that was really doing anything offensively. Well, since April 18th, what's that, 3 weeks now, at least?
Yeah.
He's batting 170, on-base percentage of 230, slugging percentage of 344.
Not good. Okay. Not good, Bob.
Okay, not good, but also maybe a little rough patch. And you mentioned it when we were. Is it just rough patch, or is he starting to show signs? That's why I want to talk about it. I want to talk through it, so to speak, as people like to say, because even if you set aside the base running blunder last night, which was typical Jose Altuve, things about him right now are just kind of signs. He's played in 105 playoff games in his career. Since he's turned 30, he's played in 55 playoff games. That's a lot more wear and tear.
Oh, I hadn't seen you going from that perspective. Yeah, playing deeper into September and even into October.
Occasionally November. Since he's turned 30, he's played 55 high-pressure more games, which is a good thing because they've won a World Series, 2 World Series, and
should have been 3.
And should have been 3, and all that. But that's a lot. 105 extra games on a guy that's now 35 years old. So there's that. And then I did the trademark Reggie Atatula deep dive into advanced numbers.
Why is that my trademark? Yeah. Okay, whatever.
Here's the analytics.
Wow. So I sound. That's me.
No, that's not
me.
you.
That's how I sound now. No, I'm taking notes. I see you.
I think people sound like that whenever they bring up stats, like deep dive stats.
Yes.
No, that's
like
one.
Adam
That's
one.
You can't make it sound cool.
That's strike number 1, figure. I see you.
He's writing it down.
Oh man,
he's writing it down. So this is a number that I buy into occasionally, and it's the hard hit rate.
Yes.
The ball coming off his bat, 28.6% of his contact is great. Strikeout rate, 18.6%. His legs are not what they once were either. Jose Altuve, the one thing you could say, he had bad base running, but he could steal some bases. He was super fast. You know where he ranks right now today in StatCast? What they call, it's basically speed. They call it sprint speed. 218th.
Yeah,
he's not running like he used to.
44th percentile. He's below average. As well.
He's not running like he used to. He's moved from second base. He was a defensive liability there. We'll see how it goes. It's going okay, I guess, in the outfield. He still makes base running errors. His batting average, it could be a bad stretch, a rough patch, as you called it, is way down. Is that a sign?
That it feels like there's a lot of things that you're adding together that makes me go, ooh, this is scary, right? Like we're getting to a place where it's bad. The things that I'm trying to use to wipe away or bat away the possibility that we are seeing just larger decline as opposed to kind of rough patch. One is that I go back and I look at some of these things. Like one of the things I was looking at was also just like general bat speed, like how fast is he swinging the bat. And when it comes down to that over the last couple of years, it has been slower than I realized when it comes to like his bat speed.
I didn't notice it.
And that's the thing. It's like that might be where just kind of veteran savvy has allowed him, like with just the knowledge and the know-how of how to use the bat, especially with his particular the size of the bat relative to his body and everything, the ways that he is able to maybe just figured out the way to handle that. So that helped me kind of ease this way. And I guess the other one is more of a question. How much do you think the move and the ways in which he is almost with like a childlike glee thrown himself into the new challenges playing in the outfield might be taking some of his effort and energy mentally away from the offensive pursuits that he typically is giving you?
Maybe. No, I think that's definitely on the table. And one thing we have all learned is don't count out Jose Altuve. And so that's why I'm making it more like hey, let's talk through this here, because I don't want to count out Jose Altuve. But what's the one thing that stands out of all those things I listed? He's 35 now, all these extra playoff games, his batting average and on-base percentage and slugging percentage since April 18th, the move from second base, et cetera, the hard hit rate. The one thing that
it's the speed. It's the speed.
Yep.
Right, because that has been like with it being a smaller body, that has been kind of the equalizing force for him. Right, is the ways in which he could use that speed to leg some things out. I know that the hard hit rate is probably one of those ones that is up there, but it feels like everybody on this team just isn't hitting the ball hard, which makes me wonder like if this is something team wide. Like these are the things that I imagine people look at when they start clamoring for the hitting coach to be fired, is that there's something across the board that you're not seeing from this team. And so maybe you can put that there. The sprint speed is just one of those things that, hey, man, eventually you get slower. And it's showing up right now in that eventually he is indeed getting slower. And that might be the thing that also just makes it untenable with all the other stuff, right? All the other stuff that is kind of inherent is that you can't make out some things. And you also can't make up for, like, with all sorts of players, and I'll go to two players that immediately jump to mind for me in a different sport, cross sport, is quarterbacks, Cam Newton and Peyton Manning. Right, Cam Newton was a dude who was a physical specimen, right, and he never was a great thrower of the football. Well, he was a great thrower of the football. He was never like mechanically super sound. He was just super strong. He was able to use that strength to overcome the lack of the strong mechanics. Up until them injuries took away some of that youthfulness, and then all of a sudden it was very evident because we remember him in New England, like this just isn't good anymore. And I remember that vividly because I was the dude who was like, no, he's just injured. When he gets healthy again, like the mechanics were never great, the strength will be there. No, the strength wasn't there, and it was just done for him. Juxtapose that with Peyton Manning, where he never had a great arm, and one of the things that he did was he thought his way through the game, and he was able to use like the brain portion of this to overcome the physical limitations. Which of those dudes feels more like it speaks to what Jose Altuve is, especially when it comes to that speed?
It
feels like it's more Cam Newton.
It's more Cam Newton.
And it feels like if that's starting to go, I do wonder, like, especially when you talk about his base path etiquette, which has never been good. Right? You're not making up for that.
Base path etiquette, I like that.
You're not going to make that up with the speed. And I'm not saying that he's not smart enough or anything, because that'd be asinine, but I do want, like, at what point do you get to the place where he's an old dog and not going to learn the new tricks of how to do this properly?
Figgy, it's the speed, man. Like all these other things, we've seen him have these patches and overcome them. Even the bat speed, he's got the savvy. He's got the Peyton Manning, sort of knows what, where the pitches are, can hit anything occasionally. But here's the thing. The calendar just turned to May. It's May. It's early. That's me saying that. And his speed is already ranking him 218th. in the bottom half. And that was one of his calling cards.
Yeah, and this is the part of the season where you're supposed to be kind of fresh.
Yeah,
like this is the part of the season where you're supposed to have some juice to you. And so yeah, man, I'm starting to get concerned just all the way around, but him in particular, because again, one of the things that I keep looking at is he's supposed to be one of the guys that you hang this offense on, and even then, like that was part of the impetus for kind of moving him back to kind of have him be in a place where he can be more of a guy that you lean on. And that's sliding. And it feels like as a team you're sliding, and the things that, I guess in a way, the hooks that are supposed to keep you in those slide moments for the entirety of the team are also sliding. And that's real disconcerting. On top of the fact that what the hell was he doing with that bunt? Did you see?
Yes.
Like that was
the second day in a row and Astros, I forget who did it the day before. It was like, why are you bunting number one? And then it's a pop-up.
That was the thing more than anything. Like maybe
that's the worst way to go out.
Oh my gosh!
You might get me on the idea that because the offense has been bad enough to where it's like, yo, we need to get to this small ball, get them on, get them over, get them in. All right, cool. What the actual hell was that? Was that bunt though? Like I feel like you got to be able to put something better. Like straight up.
That's second words to a bunt strikeout.
Oh yes, you missed the ball.
So anyways, I don't know that we have an answer, but it seems like 9-3. There's people that are holding out hope that it's a rough patch for him. And I mean, you got to hope that, because otherwise, like what's the alternative team?
It's probably a rough patch, and I think he could kind of come back from this, but you got to remember, he is 35, man.
Yep.
And we talked about the mileage. So I'm not saying they need to move on from him, but you kind of got to start.
Again, it's just one of those things you go, ooh.
You got to start thinking like he ain't going to be here forever.
Yeah.
Right. And the 2-8-1, move Altuve to DH at least until Yordan comes back. And it does feel like that's probably what's happening here. And you hope that maybe that ends up being the
saves
jump
the legs
start.
a little bit,
Yeah,
too.
maybe that's the jump start of what gets him back going the way that you need to with the bat.